Under accidents so far this evening. Freeway and street services have been salted throughout the day. Crews say they got the trucks out early.
The forecast, I think, is calling for possibly falling temperatures and a little more snow, so we're getting our trucks loaded just in case we have to come back in.
Elsewhere, the snow today has made for pleasant winter scenes throughout the metropolitan area. There were several accidents and slowdowns during the morning rush hour because of the overnight snowfall. Margie?
2 Ferndale sisters who were killed in a high-speed chase Monday were buried today. 26-year-old Carolyn Freeman and 18-year-old Melinda Ducharme were in a car hit by a speeding truck being chased by police in Hazel Park. Carolyn Freeman was the mother of 3 children. And funeral services were held in Detroit today for police officer Linda Smith. She died Saturday from injuries she received when her police car slammed into a free press truck 4 weeks ago. The 29-year-old Smith had only been on the police force for 18 months. She is the 4th Detroit police officer to die in the line of duty this year.
The Michigan Senate today approved a measure calling for severe penalties for any motorist who leads police on a high-speed chase. The bill also clarifies those circumstances when police can take off in hot pursuit. Senator Rudy Nichols of Waterford sponsored the measure. It now goes to the Michigan House. And state lawmakers are turning up the heat on Detroit Symphony Orchestra's management. Legislators are considering cutting off state aid to the DSO, which has been involved in a labor dispute for 11 weeks now. News 4's Mike Lewis is standing by live in Lansing with more on that story. Mike?
Well, Emery, this hearing was really the first public meeting in this dispute, and it was controversial. That's because the state's really not supposed to get involved in labor management disputes. But on the other hand, the state has a big financial stake in the symphony. So the message from the committee today was, if there's no more music, there's no more money.
We've allocated a certain amount of money to the operation of the symphony, and if the season is shortened, then I suspect the legislature will cut the appropriation in proportion to the shortening of the season. And I think that we simply have to warn you of that fact.
And the problem is that nobody wants us to put more money into something that isn't going to where the programs are. The great concern is that the symphony be operational. The great concern is that we have music in the metropolitan area.
Senator, I would be amazed and rather shocked if you had any other viewpoint than that. That's the only responsible viewpoint you could have.
DSO President Oleg Labanov could not answer many of the committee's detailed budget questions. Like, exactly what has the symphony done with $1.6 million it received from the state in October, since there's no music? And how much does the DSO board support the actions of Chairman Walter McCarthy in canceling the Christmas season? Senator Lana Pollock summed up the committee's feelings.
There's always a way to settle something, and sooner will it be a lot better than later, as far as I'm concerned.
Musicians say just the fact that this meeting took place should increase the pressure to end the stalemate.
Our feeling is that the future of the orchestra has been entrusted to Walter McCarthy and his vice chairman, and if they don't maintain the level of the orchestra the way it should be, the state won't fund it, and the city won't accept it, nor will the musicians.
We learned just a little while ago that management plans to tell the state to keep its $1 million. Now, that payment's due in January, so that's not really a good sign for the symphony's future. On the other hand, though, the management does agree that this meeting does help to step up the pressure on both sides. Emery, Margie?
Mike, was there any talk in Lansing about any kind of movement to resolve the strike?
Just a little bit of quiet talk, Emery, right after the meeting about a big meeting taking place in Detroit in the next day or two among some people who may be able to break this impasse and perhaps get that Christmas season back on schedule.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Let's hope so. Thank you, Mike. The suspect in the murder of a Western Michigan University co-ed has been ordered to undergo psychiatric evaluation. Timothy Bergman is charged with killing 18-year-old Julie Cunningham. He'll be tested at the Center for Forensic Psychiatry in Ypsilanti. A preliminary hearing in the case has been scheduled for today. It will now take place on February 11th. A jury in Washtenaw County today found 75-year-old Wilford Paul Cashman guilty of second-degree murder in the shooting of his girlfriend 17 years ago. Cashman was arrested in Pennsylvania in May. The NBC TV series Unsolved Mysteries had featured the murder case, and neighbors in Pennsylvania tipped police. Sentencing is scheduled for January 15th.
Traffic could be rolling across the Zilwakee Bridge before the end of the year. That's the word tonight from Transportation Director James Pitts. Pitt says recent load tests prove that the problem-plagued bridge is safe. The northbound lanes will open later this month or in early January. Both spans of the Zilwakee Bridge won't be open to traffic until next summer.
And still to come on News 4 at 6, Vice President George Bush makes another campaign stop in Michigan. We'll tell you what he had to say.
And some local sports stars team with students in the war against drugs. We'll have that story for you.
Just in time for the holidays, Art Van is having a holiday.
Vice President George Bush made 2 appearances in Michigan today to shore up delegate support. Bush supporters were disturbed by a Jack Kemp-Pat Robertson coalition effort in Michigan to change delegate selection rules at a special state committee meeting next week. At an Ask George Bush meeting at the Oakland-Pontiac Airport today, the vice president was focusing on Senator Robert Dole and other Republicans who have wavered on the latest arms control agreement with the Soviet Union.
I urge you to encourage your senators to stand for this. I urge the Republican leaders in the United States Senate to stand together and say, in principle, we support this major achievement of our president.
There was no mention, however, of the party squabbles in Michigan, although 2 Robertson workers threw their support to Bush today, claiming their disenchantment with the mixture of religion and politics in the Robertson camp.
It appears tonight the chairman of Blue Cross Blue Shield will be asked to resign. Directors of the state's largest health insurer have voted to accept a special audit recommending that John McCabe step down. The company has been under investigation after allegations that top executives bought company cars at below market prices and that a condo was purchased for McCabe. A preliminary hearing began today for the president of Detroit's Board of Water Commissioners. William Herbert and 4 others are charged with embezzling $140,000 from a subsidiary of Blue Cross Blue Shield. The exam is expected to last several weeks, and if convicted, Herbert could go to prison for 10 years.
Some area athletes have joined forces tonight in the war against crack cocaine. News 4's Dan Mountney reports now on a special program started by Pistons star Isaiah Thomas to get kids to say no to the deadly drug.
In recent weeks, Detroit police have been seen busting down the doors of crack houses, waging a very visible war against cocaine. Today in Pontiac, a less dramatic but hopefully more effective way of dealing with the drug problem. It's a strategy session for a big league challenge, Crack Down on Drugs. A new team made up of pro athletes, students from 100 area high schools, and 4 county prosecutors.
It's education. It's young people telling other young people that drugs do nothing but destroy hopes, dreams, aspirations, and if you want to have a future, you cannot become involved with drugs.
The student leaders have all organized drug councils, which have implemented drug awareness programs in their schools. The schools then compete with each other for points, for prizes, and for something much more important.
Students get sick of listening to adults always tell them, you do this, you do that. They like to hear it from other students, and if they see other students doing it, I think they'll join in and help.
You're talking at their own level, because students have a certain way of communicating.
And a lot of younger students, I think, look up to us as leaders in our school. And if they see us spreading an anti-drug sentiment, I think they'll have the same reaction as well.
There are people who... The Pistons' Isaiah Thomas is one of several local sports stars leading the charge in this new drug war. His message was delivered in person and on a videotape to be played in area schools.
Alcohol and drugs, growing up, they were everywhere. That's the problem. Staying away from them, that's the solution.
Organizers hope kids will get the anti-drug message this way now rather than this way later. Dan Mountney, News 4, Pontiac.
Be a lot easier to hear it that way, wouldn't it?
That's right, exactly.
Well, Isaiah's going to be busy tonight. The Pistons get ready to take on the Boston Celtics tomorrow. Al has a preview.